Hii soko ya Nairobi.
Soko ya madaktari.
Madaktari. Yo.
Did you ever think you were going to be a mom? Like, were you thinking about children?
I knew I always wanted children from the time I was a child. I think I had over 24 pregnancy tests.
Wow.
What?
So I'm just feeling hot, moody,
Mm.
and then now, for sure, I fell into depression at that point. My face was just...
She got the light in her life. Her love never fails. She lives to walk right. And through her trials, so much grace. So much grace. So much grace. So much grace.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's podcast. My name is Washo. And who are you guys?
Charlene here.
Kadzo.
That's it. You don't have other names.
You said one name.
We're following your...
Yeah, so
this is weird.
welcome to today's episode. We're gonna start with some fun questions before we get into the topic of the day. And today I wanted to ask my fellow moms, like what's been the highlight of your week today? And what can you share about how your week has been, even if it's still midweek, but yeah, a highlight for your week.
Good or bad?
Whichever.
See you there.
All of them. Either good or bad.
I think for me, the first thing that comes to my mind is, so every night, my kids and like our bedtime, one of our bedtime routines is like brush their teeth and then say the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently we've noticed that our girls we hold each other's hands. So recently I noticed that they hold each other's hand and mumble the Lord's Prayer.
Oh.
And I was like, that is just the cutest thing.
That's so cute.
It's because they don't have they haven't formulated the words yet, but like the fact that they have like a rhythm and they hold each other's hands, I thought that was really, I don't know, it just really motivated me to be like, okay, maybe I'm doing something right.
That's cute.
So, and it's so cute.
Yeah.
That's my highlight.
Kanzolina?
For me, yesterday, my overtired child came to me and I was like, are you ready for sleep? So he came and sat on me and then he was like, so I'm like, okay, it's time to sleep. And then he's like, pray!
Oh.
So there's a grace that we normally pray with him. We prayed and then he's like, daddy! Because there's a song that goes, my daddy, my daddy.
Yeah.
Aww.
So he started singing. So I put the song and then he sang and he was doing this. So for me, that was a highlight. Yeah. And then he decided to not sleep. He has to go on his car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's my highlight.
I like how, like from what you guys have shared, it's there's something I was listening to in the morning about how toddlers, okay, we all have toddlers, that toddlers thrive on consistency.
Oh yeah.
And so like even from you, because it's something that you guys have been doing so many times that now it's become a thing for them. Like even us yesterday, we were listening to worship and it's a song that I think I've played for Kalel. We play it normally in Sunday school. Then we played it together. We played it in the evening. And the same thing, like he was so excited, like he knows this is us, and it's a hype, like praise. It's a praise song, so we were just dancing, and Leah, we were holding hands. I carried Kalel, and then Rob carried Ketura. It was kind of sweet. Yeah.
What song is that one?
The one for Are You on the Lord's Side?
Oh,
the one for dancing forever. Yeah, like it's a. I like that. Even if a child has had something once or twice, like in their minds, it's already formed. It's dark. Yeah.
Like Tando's favorite song is right now.
Yeah.
Jambo Jambo. So he said Jambo Jambo. It's so funny. Jambo Jambo.
Yeah. So today I wanted us guys to talk about why are we doing this podcast? Why do you think? Why are we doing this podcast?
I think the biggest motivation was noticing, like what we noticed was a gap.
Yeah.
I think because context back in the day when we're talking about, like, we had our kids around the same months. So we were talking about how we listen to podcasts that are more Western. How do I say it?
Westernized.
Not really
No,
westernized.
Okay, just
Yeah,
not
they're
African.
Western, not
they're
African.
not African podcasts. So there was always this missing gap of, like, yes, these podcasts are like, they're faith based, they love Jesus,
Yeah.
but how can we relate to what they're saying in entirely, like, in the whole, how do I explain this, guys? Like, in the whole
context of, like, now you as
Yes.
one, as an African mom.
yeah, because there were so
Yeah.
many gaps in terms of,
Yeah.
like, culture and
Yeah.
tradition, and a lot of the things that are black and white in Western countries tend to be gray when you come to, like, African countries. So, like, topics like things like naming, like, a podcast that we did earlier. So it's
Discipline.
and disciplining, especially, that topic. So it's like noticing the gap
Yeah.
that was there when it comes to, like, podcasts or outlets that talk about motherhood and the journey, or parenting in and of itself, the journey that it is within the African context, and not just sprinkled with a little Jesus, but focused on how can we disciple our families, because our faith comes first. So noticing that gap, I think, for me was the first. I was like, we are here, we love Jesus, like, we can be an outlet for other
moms out there. And have you ever, guys, asked yourself why the three of us, I don't know. Like, there are times I sit and think, and I'm like, okay, why the three of us? Like, it could have been other people.
That's true.
I've not asked myself that, but I'm like, I believe that God has a reason for everything, and it's just willing vessels at the end of the day, because there are many other believers who are moms who would probably still have the ability to do what we're doing, who just chose not to. So I think it's just having the willingness to open your heart and be vulnerable, and just trust that God will use you and your experiences to edify, to build, and to bring people to Him.
Yeah. And also, like, a fun outlet.
Yeah, it is a very fun outlet. And for context, I think we should mention, like, how we know each other.
Yeah.
But I knew you first. I knew Washo first back in
2011. No, not 2011. 20.
Bro, so in high school.
17.
19?
2019.
I think it was 19.
2018, 2019
Yeah,
there.
around that
When did you get married?
2019.
I got married 2018. Yeah, I think it was 2018.
Yeah.
Around that area, around that time period. And a friend of mine introduced me to the same church that they go to in Femi. And then that's where we met. But we kind of lost connection over the years, because I moved away. So it was just...
We have a nomad here.
It's a different story. But we reconnected on Instagram when I found out she was also pregnant around the same time that I was pregnant. And then we came to Kenya, and then Washo introduced me to Kadzo. How did that happen?
I walked you to their house looking for food, I think.
Yeah. You guys had come to visit.
You guys got to visit. And I think I had to look for food like I always do, like 3/4 of the time.
Naingiza neighbor, kuna
stew. I need food for what our children eating today.
Kadzo and I are neighbors.
Yeah.
Little neighbors.
Yep. And then we started talking about Reason Motherhood.
Yeah. Because we all had, our kids were 6 months, I think, at that point.
Yeah.
No, they were sitting and trying to walk. So around
around the
11, 12.
Yeah.
No, 10, 11. Okay.
My kids were definitely not a year yet.
Yeah.
They weren't a year. Because I remember they were sitting and also crawling.
Crawling,
yeah.
It's so funny how the Lord brings us together.
It's so
Yeah, so that's how I met you. This one, how did I meet Washo? Through Rob, my brother.
true. From another
Rob is the
mother.
husband. Just
From another
My
mother.
brother from another mother.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And us, I don't know, we've been in each other's lives. Kadzo was my best maid, I was her best maid.
oh,
Yeah, we've
That's
kind of gone through seasons together. Yeah.
yeah.
But when I met Kadzo, she didn't like me. Like for real,
Yeah.
for real.
A story for another day.
A story for another day. So yeah, I think we've covered the why. Then we can let me do like a backstory for someone texted me on Instagram, and they were asking me about motherhood and all that, and it made me like reflect on journey of motherhood. Like what did you ever think you were going to be a mom? Like were you thinking about children before you got married, or when you got married? I don't know, like how was that for you? As we all look at
Kazu, you should
Shaggy.
go first.
I feel like if I go fast, you guys, like, I'll take the whole one
It's
now.
okay. It's okay.
But I think, okay. So I think I'll start. There are two verses that I'll highlight.
Yeah.
Psalms 127:3. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. And 1 Samuel 1:27. For this child I prayed, and the child has granted the desires of my heart. So for me, I knew I always wanted children from the time I was a child. But you know, the number kept on varying. And the how and whatever. So that time I was like, oh, I'm going to adopt. Then I was gonna get a surrogate. Let me tell you, I just had issues. So but by the time we got married, I knew obviously we'd want children. And I thought I wanted like 4 or 5. Now I'm down to 2. But we didn't, I can't say Ed and I had a timeline for kids, but we thought maybe by the time we're like 2 or 3 years married, we'd want a child. So obviously get married, I was on contraceptives, and I was just having on and off. You know how contraceptives are, which I feel like should be another whole topic.
That's a whole topic on itself. Yeah.
But I think by the time after, we didn't even get 6 months, I was off contraceptives. And I was off contraceptives. And then we said, it will happen. But then I realized that every 2-3 months, like, my period would delay, to get longer and longer, and my symptoms are just funny. So I always, like, every other month, I always thought I was pregnant. Only to realize I'm not. So after like a year or so, no, maybe two years of being married, we're like, oh wait, we're not using contraceptives, we're not using condoms, we're not getting pregnant. And then at that point, it reached at that point, I think my periods, at time, they came after 3 months. And I'm like, there's something wrong. And I'd started getting really bad cramps. Like, they were so bad, Eddie would find me kneeling on the couch. It's 7 a.m. in the morning. Rocking back and forth just because of the cramps. So one thing led to another. I went to a doctor and I'm like, okay, so this is what's happening. I'm getting delayed periods and I have really bad cramps. So they do an ultrasound. They're like, oh, you have cysts, which is normal. Guys, the number of doctors, I think.
I'm so
Hii
sorry.
soko ya Nairobi.
Soko ya madaktari.
Madaktari. Yo. Lord Jesus. God bless us doctors, because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So we went to see a number of doctors, and I remember seeing a doctor at some hospital. I don't know if I should say the hospital. Me, I don't like that hospital.
Don't say the
Don't say it.
hospital.
I won't say the hospital.
You can DM us for details.
But it's like a hospital that just deals with women. Let me just say that. And I went and I was telling the doctor, this is what's happening. My periods are delayed. I've been having, and at that point I was having, it's like 1 week of cramps. And now on that day, that particular day, what took us to hospital was I couldn't walk because of the pain I was feeling. And I remember telling the doctor, I'm like, this is what I'm going through. I'm like, I haven't had my periods. It's been like maybe 2 months. And then he's like, you're a woman. Anything can affect it. Weather, temperature. And I'm like, this is what I'm feeling. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, go do some tests. I felt so mishandled.
Yeah.
So I do tests, nothing. Luckily, on that day, my period started. Then I went to, there's a hospital that I go to. It's like a family clinic. And I was talking to the doctors. I'm like, this is what's been happening. And she's like, let me recommend you to my gynecologist. And he's really good with just normal cases. And this gynecologist is actually related to Washo.
Not related, but is a family friend.
Related!
But not related. Is a family friend.
This gynecologist is related stroke family friend of Washo. So we go there and he's like, oh, I think what you have is called PCOS. I'm like, okay. And you get cysts, what. I'm like, okay. So he's like, so what do you want? So he's like, actually, now with that one, the chances are high of infertility. So what we're going to do is we're going to try get you pregnant. I'm like, oh, okay. So at that point, it's been maybe like a year. And so I'm like, okay, now we're going to try having a child. Like, oh, we're going to try the first mode of fertility treatment, which is pills. And the second is normally, what's the second one? The second one, I think you go for injections or something, and then there's IVF. So I'm like, okay. So we try, and he's like, okay. Well, so we tried it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
So I just go, I get pills. Then, sorry, let me gather my thoughts. Yeah, so he's like, we're going to try the conservative way, which is pills. So they give you a fertility drug and then supplements. So I start with the fertility drug and the supplements. First time, insurance pays. Second time, they're like, hey, we don't cover fertility.
Out of pocket.
Pain. The pain point, let me tell you. Hey. So after the first month, I take it, they give you, I think you take it between the third day after when your period starts, you take it and then ovulate and then, so I take it the 3 days. First month, nothing. Second month, nothing. Third month, hata hatuna pesa. So we just figured out, I'm just sitting there. Okay, I think by the time we reached the third month, I was so frustrated.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and the hospital were like, it was 13K for everything, for the pills, for just the supplements. And I remember just looking at them, I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, you know what, let me just take a break. So his clinic is in Hurlingham. Me, I just took myself, I'm like, let me come back. I went to McFry's. I bought chips and chicken. Sat there, ate my chips and chicken and cried.
Yeah.
I was just crying. Waiting for Eddie. I called him, I'm like, this is what the insurance said, they're not paying for it anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have money. So Eddie, we had to look for that money. So we paid it. Hi, a month 4.
Okay, so sorry.
I noticed now as it kept on going on. So now these are the things that was happening in my body. And with those drugs, I can't remember the name. I'm trying to remember the name. I can't remember the name. But with the drug, I noticed I was getting hot flashes.
Like you have menopause.
It's like I have menopause. So I'm just feeling hot, moody. And then now I noticed I started feeling a pain on either one or two sides, depending on the month. So by the 4th month, I'm just in pain, and I'd just taken the medicine. I think, no, I'd finished the dose and it was time for my periods. Luckily, by then my periods start regularizing.
Regularizing.
So I'm waiting for my period. I'm like, hey, are you pregnant? I've not come. But I was in pain.
Yeah.
So I go to the doctor. I think my period started on day 3 of my periods. I go to the doctor and he wasn't there. So he's like, go see another. His colleague. They shared a room or an office. And so I'm going to see the colleague. I'm like, this is what I know. It's like, okay, we need to do an ultrasound. So I do an ultrasound. And then he's like, how long have you been doing this treatment? I'm like, I think we're now on month 4 or 5. No, actually, I think we're just at 6 months. I was like, I'm seeing a follicle. I'm like, I'm on my period. So can I be ovulating?
Yeah.
Like, no, this looks like a follicle. What day are you? I'm like, day 3. Then, see, wait, first,
Daktari.
you guys should hear Eddie's version of this. So he's like, hey, the follicle. And I'm just like,
Okay, my doctor.
at that point, I'm like, where?
Does
Because I'm telling us, uchungu. He's like, yeah, it's day 3. The blood is not that much. You just enda nyumbani. You go meet your husband.
Hi. So how should that be interpreted?
Let me be devil's advocate. There's actually now there are people who even when they get pregnant, they still bleed. So sometimes
that's
it
true,
could be it could be have been a follicle, but now you see not every. I don't know. I feel like I think medicine is just medicine.
It's a calling.
Medicine is a calling. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, just go and meet, your husband. Sometimes women, you can be so conservative.
But why is it the women? Why don't they tell me? Those. Me honestly, just I feel like people normally make it seem like it's only the men. It's only men who enjoy sex, and us women, we are so rigid.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's not like that. Like we also enjoy. Like it's
also,
not. Yeah.
I've heard of women who enjoy having sex when they're on their periods. I don't know. I'm not in that. I'm on my periods.
That needs to be a
I'm
topic
feeling.
of its own.
You're feeling the way you're feeling. I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
I'm feeling upset.
Yeah.
And like I'm just feeling like, bro. Sometimes I just see my husband. I'm like, wait,
Back up.
Back
it up.
Yeah. So this guy tells you to go meet your husband.
And I was so offended. I'm like, first of all, you've not even told me what to do with the pain, what. It's like, also, this ovary inakaka imefura, so you need to stop the treatment for a month, and then you come back. Because it's called an ovulation, I think he said, when your ovary enlarges. And that's another risk of fertility treatment because you're overworking your ovaries. So you take a break, go back. We went, I think we did it for like 8 months. On the 8th month, my periods delayed. But I think at that point, I had done so many pregnancy tests. I was now discouraged. And I used to keep them aside. Because you see how over the years, I think I had over 24 pregnancy tests.
Wow.
What?
I used to put them aside. And I remember one day, I was just sitting there crying. I'm like, why is this thing not happening? And I think at that point, it was December. I'll never forget
Yeah.
this. It was December, and it was November going to December. And I asked Eddie, I'm like, what do you want for your birthday? And Eddie's like, I'd like to be a dad. Eh.
Because you felt bad.
I went for it. God, it's a one thing.
Yeah.
No, one thing.
Yeah.
I was created to do, I can't do.
Yeah. Which, this was how many years after you guys had
This
gotten
was-
married?
Over, I think we had reached the 4 years mark.
What?
So I'm like,
Mm.
oh my God. And I looked at all the pregnancy tests that I had.
Mm.
And I'm like, Aki Lord. Aki God. I cried. Aki, I think I just wept for like 3 hours. And Eddie was just there snoring. He didn't even know.
You were there weeping.
I was there weeping. I looked at those tests and I remember, I think the next day, I was just sitting in the house and God was like, throw those tests. I'm like, in my head, I'm like, but I'm keeping them so that, because on Instagram, there are those photos of people who've gone through fertility, all the tests, and then there's that one
one.
that's positive.
Then
That
you put
one.
all the syringe,
All the
for
syringes,
IVF and things like that. Yeah.
And so now he's like, what he placed in my heart was, instead of what those tests were doing in my heart, they were brewing discouragement.
Yeah.
And whatever even he wanted to do, he couldn't do it because there's this landmark that I keep adding to.
Yeah.
So I took them and I threw them. The next month, my periods didn't come, and I didn't have the normal PMS symptoms. I didn't have cramps. So I'm like, okay, maybe it's time. But I didn't check.
Yeah.
And then I had the worst. After a few days, I started bleeding, and it was a lot, and there were clots. But I'm like, this is not normal. So I moved on. I'm like, you know what? A few days after, I started bleeding again, and it was so weird. I remember I was in the office, and I just started feeling a sharp pain, and a lot of clothes were coming out. So I called my friend Swela. I'm like, hey Swela, this is what happened, and this is what's happening. I'm bleeding. This is how I'm feeling. And she said, why do I feel like you might have been having a miscarriage and we don't know? That time, Eddie has traveled.
Out of the country?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was, I don't even know where he was. He had traveled. So she's like, you just get home. So I drove home and they came and met me. And she's like, I feel like you had a miscarriage. We didn't know. I'm calling my doctor.
Yeah.
So he called her doctor and he was busy and he's like, we got an appointment for the next day. So I went, I saw him and I explained what was happening. And he's like, it could have been a miscarriage, but now because it's already happened,
You can't know.
we can't really know.
Yeah.
So what we can do now is figure out what's been happening. So I explained my history. And the first...
Sorry, so this is your friend's doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
Who's the doctor of all doctors?
Who's the doctor of all
gynecologists.
Honestly, of all the gynecologists I've seen, that guy was the best for
There's
me.
even like a group of toddler moms, like so many moms. And that, like when you see moms, there are moms who ask, can I refer? What gynecologist do you want? Like the number of times you see other women talking about him, you will be shocked.
Actually, can I mention?
Yeah, you can.
It's called Yamal. Yeah. It's called Yamal.
Yeah.
So we went and he's like, okay. So he took down my history and he's like, listen, so these are the possible scenarios. You could have endometriosis. You could have that PCOS, but we need to do tests to also see.
Yeah.
And then he's like, so those are the two scenarios we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So we did a blood test, and then when we went back, he's like, so this is PCOS. Endometriosis, we can't tell until we go inside.
Yeah.
So with PCOS, he's like, he wrote down, he's like, these are the possible scenarios. We could work on your health. You can choose, do you want to be pregnant or do you want it was weight, pregnancy. I can't remember the third option he gave us. And I'm like, of course we want to be pregnant. It's like, yeah, that's why you're here. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah. So pregnancy, this is what we're going to do. The first thing was like, we'll go conservative because he's a conservative doctor. So he's like, one, we'll do the medicine and review. Medicine review. After 3 months, if nothing is happening, we're going to consider going for a surgery. And it won't be intrusive. So it was laparoscopy. And then after that, we'll know what's happening. So we went, so we started the pills and no, first of all, he's like, there are a number of cysts. And the first thing he wanted to do was to clear them. That put me on contraceptives for about 2 months. Then the cysts disappeared. Then we started the treatment. So we started it. So I'd take the dawa and then day 14, I'd go back for a review. That was when I saw the difference between Yamal and the other doctor. Because he's like, he asked me, so after you took the medicine, you didn't go back? I'm like, no. So what happened? He's like, you just go have sex and then we know. He's like, oh. This is how it started. He's like, oh. So even now, he explained now the thing for the follicle. Because I'm like, yeah, this happened. And he's like, if there was a follicle that was being seen when you are on your menses, it means most probably that was just a cyst. And that cyst kept on recurring. Because I went to my other ultrasounds, the same ovary. So 1 month, we did it. 2nd month, we did it. And then 3rd month, 2nd month, a cyst appeared. 3rd month, contraceptive to clear it. 4th month, a cyst appeared. 5th month, the cyst was not going. 6th month is like, friend, this cyst is not going. And I remember he looked at that ultrasound. He was so pissed. He's like, honestly, and it's the same side. I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm sorry. This is what I'm going to
recommend now.
It's like because the contraceptive is not shrinking it. We need to go in and find out what it is and probably remove it. So we go in. We schedule the laparoscopy, and then they go and remove it, and then it was a day procedure. I was home. So a few days after, when we're going for the review, he's like, he calls me and he's like, first of all, I need you to come in. And I'm like,
That's not a good sign. I don't know. Like, those calls, you're just
is it good? Is
can
it
you
bad?
imagine? Yeah.
So we go in, and then so we go, hi, how are you? The nurses, we enter his office. I'm seeing 1 doctor, 2 doctors, 3. I'm like, huh? All your assistants are here.
Right.
And they're just there. They're like, we'll just wait for Dr. Yamal. Now I'm just panicking. I'm like, what's happening? And then he comes in and he's like, so we got your results and I'm sorry. We found out it was what we thought was a normal cyst, was a granulosa cell tumor. And we wish we knew, because we would have handled it differently, because we just we cut it and removed it, because he took tissues. And that's another thing that if I was to talk to another mom, I'd say, know your doctor. Because other doctors would just bust that cyst and move on.
Yeah, they won't
They
be
won't go
as
and-
honest.
For him, I know even when my friend went through a miscarriage, he literally, and he said that what most doctors should do is you take the sample and see. Because that will tell you why it's happening and how to prevent it. Others will like, hey,
Will it also tell you what it is?
What it is that's causing it. So he's like, if we knew it was, would have, dealt with it differently, because, blood, we just thought it was filled with blood. And so we burst it and it went all over. And then now we just have to do a number of tests. And if that's the case, we'll have to go in and remove the whole ovary and fallopian tube, and then do some cleaning and hope it hasn't spread.
Yeah.
And then, so at that point he's talking, I'm like, sasa mi ukiniambia granulosa mi najua hiyo ni nini. Like, I'm like, okay, it looks bad.
Yeah.
Sounds bad.
Sounds bad. And the fact that everyone is here looking at me like a medical case, like niko tu hapo ER hapo tu Boston Legal.
I think
don't know.
you can laugh about it now.
I can laugh about it now, but then
like I don't know what you went through, but I can imagine the emotional and the psychological.
Then I was like, I think I was confused. And then it
Yeah.
hit me when he said, and then after that, we'll see if we have to go through chemo. I'm like, huh?
Wait, so was Edu like back?
Yeah, he
At
was
this
back
time.
then. At this time,
Okay.
the surgery is back and everything. So he's like, yeah, I would consider chemo and I'll recommend an oncologist, gynecology, oncologist. I'm
Okay,
like,
so how did you guys handle that?
Yeah,
news?
me.
Because
See,
you're trying to
first we're just trying to
Conceive, yeah.
and
me. It hit me. I think it hit me after he said gynecology, oncology, whatever. I'm like, oncology. First of all, my brain, I think because of everything was going on, my brain did not hit what an oncologist does.
Is, yeah.
And then when he said chemo, I'm like, huh? And so I think my face was just,
shock.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So he's like, we did the blood test. Like, there's a blood test we needed to do to confirm. Because he's like, as he was talking, is when it was hitting me what he's saying. Because like this, the normal, with this type of tumor, he's like, the normal blood test does not register, does not detect
The cells.
So I'd have to do a different test. I'm
yeah.
like, is this thing have cancer? Mark you, at this point in time, Eddie's mom had cancer.
Yeah.
And she was literally fighting. Had she passed?
No,
Not
she
yet.
hadn't passed yet.
So, tuko hapo and we went. I think I was just zombie mode from there. We went, did the blood test, went to Aga Khan, took the sample that they need and took it to another lab. Because he's like, listen, we take this sample to another lab. You can do 2 or 3. 2 labs or whatever if you want. Or another lab, but just we need another opinion.
Yeah.
So we went, did that, and when we're in the car, I'm like, oh, as we went to find out if we have a baby, Kobe, we are just, my ovary just sick.
Yeah.
And Eddie's looking at me like, how are you joking about it? I'm like, that's how I'm loading. So as time went, it's when it hit me. I think I shut down.
Yeah.
I actually did shut down. I think for like 1 week, 2 weeks, I didn't leave my bed. I can, for sure, I fell into depression at that point.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, man.
yeah, so the test I went to see my that other clinic that I go to just for a health check. And I was just telling my doctor what was happening, and she was like, there are people who beat cancer. You won't be the last. So she was just encouraging me. And she's like, can I see the test? Like, yeah, I showed her the test. And she's like, if the tissue says it's cancer, the blood test doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, she's one who encouraged me. Because me, I said, God, you're the healing me, I'm dying. I'm not doing a lot of
So why are you making it sarcastic? We're not supposed to be
I'm telling you. This is
But that's also how she's
that's how you process things.
processing.
This was like converse. I'm like, do or die. I'm going on YouTube. Granulosa cell tumor. To see someone talking about
the
it.
Google.
I found
the Google deep
hole.
So I found a lady who had it, and then she went quiet, and then I saw someone writing, oh gosh, I saw she died. I'm like, God.
Kazo.
I'm dying. Have I even served my purpose or have I failed?
Yeah.
You've just said this one is just a waste.
Yeah.
Lord, I pray I'm in right books. So
Was that the first time you started thinking about eternity? Would you say?
me, yeah, I think at that point I'm like, Kenya hata hii dunia ni ngumu.
Where?
Marriage is
We're
hard.
not supposed to be laughing.
Let me adjust. I'm like, my time has come.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hata hii maisha tu imekuwa tu ngumu. I've just been through hardship.
So ungeacha Eddie na nani?
Angerimari.
Okay, God, so
So that lady,
Lord.
so she just, so she's like, okay, she's like, this is what I can tell you
Yeah.
as your doctor. She's called Dr. Salome. I really love her. She's just like,
She's
those
what
people
kind
who
of doctor?
she's just a general.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
She's those doctors that are just full of unamwona tu na smile.
Unafurahi, yeah.
She's just full of light and energy.
Yeah.
So so how she explained it was this, like, with this type of tumor, it's good you to find early. And I remember the doctors telling me, it's like, it's good we found it early. Me, I'm just there crying.
yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's good you found it early because it spreads very slowly. But when it spreads, it's detrimental because, like, from the ovary, it moves to the
Tube.
the fallopian tube and
Yeah.
then to the intestines, and from there, once it gets there.
Yeah.
So she's like, the solution would just be to remove it. So if the tissue confirms it, the second tissue, the blood test doesn't really matter. It just has to go. So Yamal had recommended another colleague of his who's an oncologist, a gynecological oncologist. So he went to see him. Let me tell you, I pray to the Lord Jesus Christ to give Yamal long life until I'm done with children, because Mimi in Nairobi, these doctors here.
So
We went there, paid, was it 4K for consultation? The
and
guy,
this is not with insurance. You're not
it's not insurance.
Yeah, it's not insurance.
So we went, the guy, he's like, oh, wow. Like, he was so excited to see us. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, can I feel? Oh, wow, it was found early, eh? Let me, us, uncle, we like to touch so we feel. I was like, okay, let me feel. It was early. And then he's like, well, for me, Yamal is, they do the new technology. For us, we are open for open operation, so we can feel and touch around. I'm just like, me, I had that, and I told, in my head, I knew I'm not doing the surgery.
Yeah.
So it's like, and then from there, we'll probably do chemo. And in my head, I'm like, the whole time I'm sick. You know what I'm thinking? So when can I have children?
Yeah.
So I'm like, so after that, when can I have children? It's like, most probably what to do is try to retrieve the other eggs from the ovary that has remained. We see which ones are good.
Yeah.
Because basically, from there, it means you probably have IVF. Because like, if you're doing chemo, what that means for your body is it kills everything.
Yeah. Every good, it doesn't know bad cell, good cell, zote. Yeah.
And that also means your eggs are affected. So you have to retrieve them before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so how long can I do chemo? And that's when I knew chemo is trial and error. Joe's like, oh, with chemo, we try this one to see if it works for your body, if it doesn't work. And then if it doesn't work, we move, we do this. I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, so munasema, na chemo amjui ile kitu nafanya, mnajaribu tu.
Yeah, to see if it works.
And then it's like, so how long that takes? Like, for some could take a year, it could take 2. And then after that, you need to give your body like a year or 2. I'm like, oh, so I'll take forever to have a child. This is what you're telling me.
Right.
Anyway. So Yamal calls me and he's like, hi, so your results are here. And you know it's serious when your mal calls you, because most of the time his assistants call you.
Yeah.
So he calls me like, your results are here and the tissue results confirms that this is what it is. We can wait a few days to get the blood results, but this is my recommendation. We go in and remove the other ovary.
The other ovary or the ovary?
The ovary
that
that's
had
bad.
the cyst, yeah.
So we go to the office. He's like, just come in tomorrow, we talk. So we go in the next day and he's like, it has to go. We had just had the first surgery in August. It's like, and now it's been over 2 months, and because those blood that spilled, we don't know if they spread and what. We just have to do it. And she's like, I know it's going to be expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'll charge you 50% for the surgery, and even for the anesthesiologist, we'll talk to her. It's like, sawa.
That's a good doctor.
It's a good doctor. And I'm like, we need to figure out how to get the money. It's like, listen, you come for the surgery, we figure out the money later.
Yeah.
No problem. It's like, it's not like we knew.
Yeah.
And I think I like that because it's someone who, you know, there are those people who just sick or bad. This oncologist, I feel like in my head had already started counting the amount of money that he might make. Yeah, because like I get the excitement of being able to deal with a new case, but I think there's a way you can
Handle it.
Yeah, you can handle it a bit
true.
better. And I think that's the other thing. There's a place of having, if you have a relationship with someone, and this is someone you had a relationship with, to the point at aseme, tutatafuta pesa baadaye. Like you just come for the surgery because this is something that's really, really urgent.
Yeah. It also shows like someone who cares about their patient.
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
just generally care.
Yeah.
You know, money is important, obviously, for him to continue his practice. But the fact that he was like, "Hey, listen, this is what we need to do."
Yeah.
Come
And
in.
Yamal didn't take, I think it takes like 2 insurance. Maybe by now it's 1. Bupa.
Yeah.
Saved up
That's
Bupa.
like, yeah. Insurance for the insurance is
Yeah.
So he's like, just go to the front desk and just book. Let's book, we do it, and then we figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Because it has to go now.
Yeah.
And I think at that point I'd started crying. And he's like, okay, I want you to picture this. He's like, there's a part of you that's sick.
Yeah.
And because this part is sick, it's affecting your whole body.
Yeah.
So why would you want to have a sick hand? Let's say it's your hand.
Yeah.
We just have to remove the sick hand so the rest of the body can heal and be okay. And I think I liked that narrative.
Yeah.
So we went to the front desk and told the lady, let me tell you, she's an old Indian mama who just deals with Nani because his accountant wasn't there, the normal one. So I'm like, oh, so he said that we'll pay half. Half of the price. And then she looks at me. I said, I have to confirm with doctor. Let me go talk to doctor. Let me go talk to doctor.
Yeah.
Okay? Just wait. He said half. Okay, let me go talk. She came back in disbelief. Like, okay, you charge half? And we pay when.
Yeah.
Like her words were gone.
Because it's something probably she's never seen
before.
Yeah.
So by the time we go, we schedule the second one. We schedule it, I think it was the next week.
Yeah.
And this was now October there. So we do it, we schedule, we go for it. And this is another thing where I found it very interesting. Yamal ni Mwindi, obviously. So the day for the surgery, this one I didn't check in. I didn't even want to sleep in hospital because my anxiety levels would have been off the roof. Because the first time, after the first surgery, the nurses kept telling me, Mommy, relax. My heart was just palpitating. And I could hear the nurses when I was in and out saying, Aki, mbona ana panic? It's like I was getting panic attacks just there.
Yeah.
So the second time, we went in the morning. Prepared, got ready, and then I was to go home after the same day. So we get to the operating room and he's like, hi, how are you? Today you're going to leave here better. We removed you, everything will be fine. And then there was worship.
Really?
There was worship music. And I was like, I think that gave me so much peace.
Yeah.
So anyways, like I went, slept, whatever, woke up, and I didn't wake up as anxious. I woke up knowing that a part of me has gone because he removed the ovary, the left ovary and the fallopian tube.
Fallopian tube itself, yeah.
And then he did the cleaning to check if it had spread. So I woke up and I honestly think God is just funny. So I'm waking up.
He does have a sense of humor.
And waking up, I was at the recovery room, and then there's a man. Nurse! I can't breathe. Nurse!
Wait, what?
It was I was on the floor. Nurse! I can't breathe. And then there was a guy nurse. So from where I was sitting, there was a nurse station. And the nurse was like, sir?
You're breathing. You're
Sir,
talking.
you're breathing.
So you're talking.
And then he starts again. Nurse, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yeah, nurses.
Yeah. God bless nurses.
I think he was just having his own panic attack.
Yeah.
So anyway, after that,
Wow.
after
I'd be like, get me out of here, Lord.
Yeah.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, they will.
that,
I've been to the hospital so many times.
Get me out of here.
I go home and healing recovery was faster because I also knew the first time I didn't walk because I'm like, pain.
Yeah. Stuck you chungu.
Biggest mistake.
Yeah.
So after that, the doctors are like, listen, the best thing you can ever do for yourself after surgery, abdominal, walk.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was walking more, doing things, just not trying to baby my body.
Yeah.
So he healed. We were healing. And then, so after, I think maybe a month, end of November, Yamal calls me. He's like, oh, we got the results for the tissue. First, nothing spread.
Thank God.
So, we thank God you won't have to do chemo.
Yeah.
Then they found that the cancer had just started developing in like a small, it was a localized, a small area. So it had not spread everywhere. So that was a good thing. I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. He's like, and I knew it was a good day because Yamal called me joking. Say, hey, watu wanajenga nchi wewe unalala bado. I'm like, this guy's happy.
Yeah.
It was nice. Like, okay, so now we see our steps. And we see if we get baby. Little did I know. I'm here waiting for my periods because I didn't want that start.
Yeah.
And one day I'm just feeling funny. I'm like, I feel like maybe throwing up, but I don't know. And there's almost a bit of crampy.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me just go get a pregnancy test. So I go get a pregnancy test. By the way, it was a month. I think I had sex once. After that month, I'm like, listen, when I'm having sex, because we don't have sex in a long time.
Yeah.
So I go get a test. I'm just feeling, immediately I'm seeing 2 lines. I'm like,
Wow.
what?
Yeah.
I have never seen 2
2
lines.
lines. Yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Wow.
So I call his assistant and I'm like, hi. I think I've seen 2 lines.
Yeah.
My pregnancy test.
Yeah.
She's like, what? She started laughing. I said, oh, okay. Just go get a blood test and then send it to me. So I call Eddie. I'm like, okay, so now I need to tell Eddie. I'm like, oh, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to the hospital. Where Homer?
It's like my wife just had surgery.
Yeah, I know.
She was diagnosed. Alafu unaenda hospitali ya homa. Ningekushuku.
So I think he was also busy. So he's like, okay. I'm like, so he'll just come pick me because I need him to come pick me.
Yeah.
So I went did a test at AAR, one of them. Zile Valley Arcade. So I go, I'm waiting for the test. I'm so anxious. Because they needed to check the HCG levels.
Yeah.
So I get the results, and then the doctor's like, well, it shows it's a bit elevated, but I feel like because by now it should be 4 weeks. I don't think you're pregnant. Maybe it was, but not. And I'm like, shindo mbaya, shetani. I'm like, shindwe.
Yeah.
Shindwe. Because the way she said it,
Yeah.
there's a way you can be told something. And maybe I'm like, anyway.
But
So
I
I sent
think, I don't know, like
healthcare in Nairobi.
where
Utaambiwa ukweli, I don't feel as hata si
God.
ukweli, but
no, it's the truth, but it's the delivery of the truth.
Yeah.
I think that's the,
yeah.
it's
That's
how you
well said.
deliver the
That's well
truth.
said.
Yeah.
So anyway, I sent it to his assistant, and she's like, "Oh, congratulations!
Yeah.
Looks like you're pregnant. Okay, so now you make sure, because it's Friday, make sure you come in on Monday morning first thing. I want you to start progesterone and what is it? And there's something else.
What was I supposed to do?
So the progesterone was supposed to help keep the pregnancy.
Oh, okay.
So I went Hosi Monday, and they did an ultrasound. Like, wow, we're seeing something there. So
Not a follicle.
Yeah, it's not a follicle. So
It's a something.
so your mom was like, where? Because you're not supposed to have sex after surgery.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, where? Anyway, this is what you have been looking for.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, so you continue the progesterone, you come back after a week, and we'll officially confirm it after we get the heartbeat. So it looked like it was very, very early.
Yeah.
So we continued the progesterone until I don't know when in pregnancy. And that's how I found out my little bundle of adventure.
The way you hesitated.
of
Climber. Your climber.
was there. So yeah, that's my story.
God, you did create women, and you did say multiply and fill the earth. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't, I don't know, that was very, it felt like a woman's what do you call it?
Purpose.
Purpose.
Yeah. Because you have a womb, and like it's not just a womb that is, there's a physical womb.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a physical womb and a spiritual womb.
Absolutely.
The physical womb, it's we expect to see, like you expect to see fruitfulness, you know? And it's so, I don't know, like conception is such a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Like even how
true.
nowadays, like you see people who put their lives out there, like content creators, and you see someone with like a menona, then you're just like, that guy, Aki, are you
Immediately
pregnant? Like, you
jump
know,
to-
and people
yeah.
actually ask you. And I honestly, there are people who don't ask you from a bad place. You know, people
Yeah,
are
it's
actually
true.
genuinely, they like want to see you have children.
Yeah.
But now the issue is that nobody knows what's happening in the
The
background.
background, it's true.
And it can be a difficult question.
Yeah, it is
for
a
sure.
difficult question. Like me, I think, I won't lie, I found myself looking at women, and I'm like, seeing people who've been married for X number of years, and you're just like, okay, these guys are not getting children.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely, I don't know if people will transkulia vibaya, but it's fine. Like genuinely, I want to see people getting children, growing families and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I actually genuinely like ask myself, I won't ask that person, like that's just
Yeah,
a bit
yeah,
inconsiderate.
yeah.
But I will think to myself, like me, there are people on social media I've seen, and genuinely, like I've asked God, whatever is happening, just help them.
Yeah.
Because you never know. Like you never, it's such a sensitive topic. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
But like, how do we approach a conversation like this? Because I personally believe that like growing a family doesn't necessarily have to be a child growing in your womb.
Yeah.
Like it could be spiritual,
Yeah,
or like
yeah, it's
making
true.
disciples.
Yeah.
You know, growing this child or this teenager or this youth
Yeah.
spiritually and seeing them as your spiritual child.
Yeah.
There's surrogate. You mentioned that
Surrogacy, yeah.
there's IVF, like there's adoption. So it's like a part of me. I feel like a part of me really, really wants, I don't know, just more people to embrace
Yeah.
other
Forms of parents.
exactly.
It's, yeah.
Of
Fruitfulness.
I think
Exactly.
it's important because in my journey I tried finding people that I can, that
Relate to.
relate to,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
because I realized, especially here, other than I think there's some DJ's wife, I can't remember her name, who she formed PCOS society.
Yeah. No, see. What's her name? Yeah, there's that lady who now formed a PCOS society.
Yeah, but I follow the page, but I didn't really feel edified at all because it's one thing. I felt like after people get kids, they just, stop talking about it. Like, see, I've gotten what I wanted. So after that, there was nothing. So I'd go to the page and I just see, those posters, and I really don't care about that. I wanted to see someone. I think sometimes it's just I want someone to talk to without, although I can't talk to them. So I remember I found a lady on Instagram, and she had PCOS and she tried IVF, and her eggs couldn't just make it. So then she was called Elsie. So what she did is, and someone decided to donate their embryos to her. And she only had to pay for.
That's not a Kenyan,
Sim Kenya. Kenya.
Yeah.
So I followed her, and I also saw that there are other ways. There are other ways to have children. So I do think that's important. But yeah, there are women who don't desire to get pregnant.
That is true. Yeah.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
And they could be believers as well.
Yeah.
They want teenagers, so they'll adopt. And then there are those ones who don't want kids at all.
Yeah.
It's fine. But then there are those ones who, for me, who desired with all that they have to carry their own child.
Yeah.
Because for me, pregnancy wasn't easy, but at the point where I'd feel his kicks and flutters, meant everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I think multiplying and filling the earth, it looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
We need to embrace what everyone brings to the table, and it's hard. Like we obviously are humans and would have questions. But like learning how to go about it in a way that's respectful.
Yes.
Especially and in a way that's God glorifying and encouraging to the family that's going through the process. I think we need to, we need to, and maybe at some point we can interview someone who is still in
the journey of trying to conceive. That's actually
or adopting or whatever it is. Because I think the beauty of God's kingdom is that it's supposed to look different. Like we're supposed to look different. We're supposed to speak different languages. We're supposed to, like, it just looks different. And that's a picture we see in Revelations. So I'm excited. So thank you for sharing. Like I had this for the first time, by the way. I've never had So when you're talking about cancer and tumor and I'm like, Tando, fallopian tube? Oh, what? Like, how? So it's like I'm like, I have so many questions. And I'm just like, oh my God, what is happening? I can't believe you went through that.
I actually think I haven't talked about it.
You've actually never talked
other
about
than my few friends who knew.
Wow.
I think there's a day you shared it in our church. And I remember my sister-in-law was just crying as you were talking. Yeah, because that's the day we were dedicating the children. So I think we can do a part 2 on
your husband. Edu needs to be here for that.
I think so.
He does.
So
that's a wrap.
We're out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're just like me and you have you've gone through a whirlwind of emotions and thoughts, please leave your comments, your questions down below. We definitely have a part 2 coming up, so you get to hear my story and Washu's story as well. But please engage with us. We're interested to know what you have to say, the questions you have to ask. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, don't be stingy. Peace.
Let me start with as verse, Psalms 127:3, and it goes, "Children are a gift from the Lord; they are a reward from Him." Sorry.
Cut that out. That was just us. That was just us thing.
Sorry. Okay. So Psalms. Okay.
Okay, tuendelee, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'll start with a verse, and it's
Me.
Just continue.
Oh, okay. So I'll start with a verse, Psalms 127:3. "Children are a gift from the Lord; they are a reward from Him." Charlene, unataka cake?
Tuendelee, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'll start. There are 2 verses that I'll highlight.
Yeah.